Hey everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to Wednesday night OWCP chats with Chris and Gini. All right.
Live from Tallahassee.
Live from Tallahassee. We look like we just woke up. We've had a very long month. A lot of you know that we have been traveling and our travel comes to a stop as of tomorrow, Friday, just for a month, but we will be doing live. We still will be answering messages and Facebook messages and doing posts and all that. So we're in our hotel room in Tallahassee, finishing some training with our Tallahassee office and Pensacola office and get them going. So tonight we're going to be talking about the importance of having the correct diagnosis code to getting your claim approved. Okay. We are also streaming on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Tell your friends. It is the name of all the pages are Wednesday night OWCP chats with Chris and Gini. And I'll have Chris do some housekeeping while I start sharing because I have a lot to share. And don't forget to share, and share.
Yeah, please do that. Usually if she doesn't share as many times as she does, then it's not shared very much. So we'd really appreciate if all of you would at least share to your own page so that your coworkers know this is going on. And, you know, all the traveling we do and training of you, right, at your union meetings, conventions, one thing that we find out is that you know a lot of people that need help. You're not telling them. It's not because you don't want to. It's just maybe you're not being prompted to do so. And people really, really need the help. Even though we get hundreds of thousands of views on these pages every year, I go to these conventions and I ask, who's ever seen us on Facebook or whatever. And maybe if we're lucky, a third of the room has their hand raised. And so there's still a lot that we can do. All of us together can do to get the word out that there's a training on OWCP. So help us out, hit the share button, tell somebody at work that, we do this every Wednesday night. Don't just keep it to yourselves. Share. So yesterday we were in Melbourne, Florida, doing training with Dr. Dave Dorfman's offices. He's got Vero Beach, Titusville, and Melbourne, Florida. And so we're, working out some of the kinks in their system. And I think we got it ironed out really good. So going to those offices is going to be really smooth moving forward. And we're doing the same thing tomorrow in Tallahassee, where we are right now. And his staff from Pensacola will be there as well. So we're going to just live in-person training, just like we're doing here, to make sure that everybody is locked and loaded and ready to help you out with OWCP. So for the rest of the locations, go to federalinjurycenters.com and check the locations tab. And if you want to find an office near you, with that said, you don't have to go to Federal Injury Centers to get help from me. So here you are on Wednesday Night Chats, and we're happy you're here regardless. So strap in, and I'm going to teach you something. I've never actually taught this diagnosis before, but I was thinking about it after, Gini will read messages that you send her on Facebook, right? And we just have a lot of problems that are linked to having a poor diagnosis on your accepted claim. And that's, hey, great, you have an accepted claim. So few people do. But once it's accepted, if you have a bad diagnosis or an insufficient, inadequate diagnosis, then bad things are going to happen. And we're going to talk about that this evening. And I think it'll be eye-opening. So I'll tell you all, and I'll ask you again later when there's even more people on watching. Do you know what your approved condition is? Do you know what your accepted diagnosis is, if your case is even accepted? Because if it is if it's not exactly what the diagnosis actually is, you're going to have problems later on. And this is not immediately obvious to most people. The untrained eye doesn't understand this as well as I do, I guess. And but at the end of this training, you're definitely going to look at your diagnosis a lot differently. So what else? After this, we're going to stay home for a while. It's going to actually be nice. The travel is exhausting, and we love you, and that's why we do it. And I know it's important work, but yeah, we could use a little bit of time off.
Because I'm sharing, so I know a lot of you probably have some questions coming in. Please hold your question. Tonight's topic is really important, so Chris is going to stick to this topic. If you have any other questions or any other topics about your own personal issues, please message us. If you're sending these long paragraphs, it takes us a little while to read. So it's better if you just message us. That way we could work one-on-one with you.
Or just be as concise as possible when you're
Yeah.
asking your questions, because, she's got to read it and I got to read it. And, I also want to be accurate in my answer. So try to help me out with that.
Right. So let's get started. Again, we're talking about the importance of having the correct diagnosis for you getting an approved OWCP claim. We understand you can't do it, but he's going to explain all the steps. So get a piece of paper and a pen and let's get to it.
So your diagnosis determines a lot of things. And we had this in our Facebook post, I guess, from yesterday. And so I'm just going to read a few things off. Number one, your diagnosis is going to determine how long your treatment can be. If your diagnosis is, and look, I'm not a doctor, okay, but I know the difference between a low level and a higher level, more severe diagnosis. But if your diagnosis is something like strain, okay, that's fine. I hope it is just a strain. But if it is that, and that's your approved condition, well, then the understanding is a strain is going to resolve itself pretty quick. And your claims examiner is not going to allow treatment past, a certain point. And they're going to say, well, you're not hurt bad enough to continue needing this treatment. They'll start cutting it off. So people will tell me all the time, I don't understand why the claims examiner keeps denying, my treatment or my surgery, which I'll talk about in a minute. And I say, well, what's your approved condition? They'll look at it and it'll be something like a strain or a sprain. And they say, but I had an MRI and it shows that there's a tear, it shows there's a herniation. Well, okay, that's great. You have the imaging, so the doctor has the proof, but there's a thing missing, and it's called a diagnosis expansion. And so anytime your diagnosis is a low level, less severe diagnosis, but your actual injury is more severe, then your doctor's got to write a new report called a diagnosis expansion report. And that adds the more severe diagnosis to your accepted claim, which will unlock the rest of the stuff that you're currently not able to get, like more treatment. So the first thing that it does, if you have a low-level diagnosis, is it'll cut off your treatment early. And if you're trying to, get back full duty so you can make it to retirement, cutting off treatment early is not always good for you, right? So that's number one, is your diagnosis can determine length of treatment. It can also determine how long you're out of work. Your claims examiner is going to start sending you to second opinion doctors if you've been out of work for a long time and you have a low level diagnosis, because they're going to say, this doesn't make sense. Just like on treatment, they're going to say, why hasn't this thing resolved already? Let's get another doctor to look at it. Now, when this happens, it's their doctor, that's not your doctor. And most people tell me, obviously I've never been to a second opinion doctor. I haven't had a federal work injury, but most people tell me the doctor's in the room for 5 minutes, barely looks at them, doesn't touch them, and doesn't read any of the notes. That's what is reported to me. You've probably seen that before. And so when your diagnosis is too low of a level diagnosis and it's not actually what it is, the higher, more severe diagnosis, then these things happen. You end up at second opinion doctors and they end up trying to cut off your case. And then you get, sent back to work when you actually can't do the job, because just because your diagnosis is a sprain, but you actually have that herniated disc that the imaging showed, well, the herniated disc may prevent you from doing a lot of the, heavy parts of your job, but the only accepted condition is a sprain, and they're going to tell you, you got to go back to work. You just have a sprain. Nothing else is wrong with you. You should be better already. And so your diagnosis can determine length of treatment and can determine length of time off of work. Now, let me just add this in, and you've all heard me say it if you've heard me even speak once, is the surest way to get paid at work is to go to work and clock in. And so I'm in favor of you getting to work and clocking in, having your benefits continue, and will help you later on when it's time for retirement and so forth, and you're not locked into your pre-injury salary. You're eligible for pay bumps if you are back at work full duty. So obviously that's what we want you to do. But if your diagnosis doesn't allow you to get back to work full duty, but your approved condition is one that says you should be back, you're going to be in a bind. So again, you got to look at your diagnosis. So next thing is, how long can you be on work restrictions? Well, at some point, they're not going to let you stay on restrictions forever. Now, I do know people that have been on OWCP for a very long time, for decade or more.
Since the 80s.
So I know that there are outlier cases like that, but for the most part, they're going to get really, really picky about what restrictions you're going to be allowed to have at work. If your diagnosis is something like a sprain, they're going to say, well, gosh, that was 6 months ago. Why is it not resolved? Because it would be most likely resolved. So it's going to affect your restrictions. The fourth thing is your ability to be paid when you're out on LWOP. So, all right, this relates to going back to work, right? Because your diagnosis is so low, it's a sprain or a strain, and they're saying you got to go back to work. Well, the other thing they're going to say is there's no reason for you to still be getting paid when you're out of work. So you're not at work, and now you're not getting paid, and the doctor can write a great disability narrative explaining the medical necessity of why you're out of work. But if that report doesn't match what the approved condition is, the claims examiner is going to go, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. This is a sprain, and the doctor's talking like there's a herniation. Let me go look back at the approved conditions. Nope, herniation's not on the approved conditions list. Denied. And so then instead of getting a check, you get a denial letter. So a bad diagnosis, and I'm using the word bad, what I mean is it's not all the way valid. It's not exactly what's wrong with you. A less than adequate diagnosis can lead you to not get paid. And then I mentioned surgery just a minute ago. The most common thing that we hear, the most common thing is, why does my claims examiner keep denying surgery? I need surgery. I have a herniated disc, or I need surgery. I have a torn ACL in my knee. I need surgery. And 100% of the time I say, well, what is your approved diagnosis? And they'll go back and look and say, oh, it's a knee sprain. Okay, well, sprains aren't surgical. I've sprained my ankle, 1,000 times in my life. I never got surgery on a sprained ankle because it's not surgical, just a sprain. And that's what the claims examiners are saying too. They're like, you just have a sprain, you just have a strain. This isn't surgical. Or you just have, your approved condition is a contusion, which is, a bump, right? Like a bump on the, isn't that what a contusion is?
Yeah.
That's a bump on the head. Or I saw somebody, I looked at their claim just a couple of days ago, and if you're on here, I'm not going to identify you, but the story is remarkable because this person was in an LOV that the steering column locked up, and her vehicle rolled 4 or 5 times, ending hanging upside down, suspended from the seatbelt. And the approved condition was, laceration, muscle spasm, and neck strain. 4 or 5 rollovers, and the worst condition that's approved is a strain. This is going to be a problem later on, and unless, thank God that is all that was wrong. But it's hard for me to believe that rolling your LLV 4 or 5 times would lead to a cut, a muscle spasm, and a strain, So the doctor has got to do a way better job diagnosing you. It's really important. We tell our doctors that, and this is why we work with imaging centers that will get you in lots of times same day or by the next day, not charge you out of your pocket because they understand they're going to take OWCP for payment. Well, our doctors, like in Tampa Bay, the Pinellas Park office and the Land O'Lakes office, right? As two examples. It takes them 1 to 3 days to finish a narrative report in total. And that's because they had to wait to get imaging so they could have the highest level valid diagnosis possible. And so when you go to a doctor who understands the highest level valid diagnosis possible, you rarely run into these problems that I'm talking about because the diagnosis is accurate. It's the highest level valid diagnosis possible. And that's what you want to have at all times. And valid because it's the real thing. Okay, we're not making things up ever. And it's the highest level, meaning the most severe. And whatever it is, it is. If it is just a strain, well, that's great. Be thankful for that. Do whatever the doctor tells you to do to get better. You'll heal up and get back to work. That's fantastic. But when you're somebody that has a higher level, more severe diagnosis, you got to get it added by a diagnosis expansion if your doctor didn't do it in the beginning. So, we train ours to do it right now, because if you do it now, you don't have to waste yours and your patient's time writing new reports later on, which causes weeks of delays waiting on a claims examiner to do something about it. So you got to have a valid diagnosis. So if you're going to have surgery, you need to know that your approved condition has to be one that requires surgery. If your approved condition is a contusion, that is not surgical. If your approved condition is muscle spasm, that's not surgical, right? you've got to have whatever's wrong with you that requires surgery as your approved condition. Critically important. Okay, here's another one. I always ask, who knows what money is? Right? Everyone knows what money is. Yeah. Schedule award. If your diagnosis is weak, your schedule award likely is going to be weak. All right.
Yep.
And, let's say you're somebody with a spinal condition and you've got radiating symptoms into your legs or to your arms, and the doctor hasn't added those diagnoses to your accepted claim. You're never going to get a schedule award for that condition. So the diagnosis will affect your schedule award, all the way, including it could, prevent you from getting a schedule award because the diagnoses aren't complete. So that's another critical thing. And your schedule or your diagnosis, I said, will determine how much of a hard time everyone gives you in OWCP. Your supervisors, nurse case managers, claims examiners, your diagnosis is going to determine how people treat you. If your approved condition is a strain, but your actual condition is a tear, and you're out of work longer because your actual condition is severe, but your approved condition is not severe, everyone's going to give you a hard time. That's those types of people that have the wrong diagnosis on their approved condition list. They get told that they're faking it. They say, well, you're just trying to stay out of work. You're just gaming the system, right? I hear these things all the time. You're not faking it and you're not gaming the system. Your doctor wrote a poor report with a bad diagnosis. It's not your fault. But it is your responsibility to know what your approved condition is and say to your doc, hey, is this it? A contusion? That's all? This is all you can get approved? I can't lift more than 5 pounds. I can't walk from here to there. And all you can do is a strain. Something's not right. So you got to take charge of your case as well and communicate with your doctor and let them know that something's not right here. Whatever this diagnosis is, I'm not getting better.
Yeah.
And if they send you and get imaging done and find out, oh gosh, you have a tear there. It's not just a strain. My bad. Okay, well then great, you're bad. Now write a diagnosis expansion report and add that diagnosis to my claim. And when those things happen, it's amazing because like that person who couldn't get surgery gets a diagnosis expansion. As soon as the new diagnosis is approved, the next day surgery is approved. It's like, that's just how it goes. It's almost automatic if you have the right diagnosis. So that's going to be really key. And then, what's going to happen with your life? This is not in my list, but if I had an 8th thing, I would say to you that poor diagnosing is the one thing that can cause the most people their lives to totally spiral out of control because they think nobody cares about them. Nobody believes them. At work, the supervisors are abusing them. Maybe they're not getting the help that they need in their union. Nobody can figure out what's going on with you. Nobody knows what's up with you because you have a strain as your diagnosis. And so you stop getting paid. They require you to go back to work, but you can't really work because you're actually injured worse than they think you are. And, your bills are racking up. These are all terrible situations that happen as a result of poor diagnosing. So I want you all to be thinking about what is my approved condition? Or even more, my doctor is writing my narrative report. What diagnosis is the doctor going to put in my narrative report? Because, if your doctor writes a weak diagnosis or a weak report, you're going to have a weak case that's going to end sooner than it needs to. Now, again, let's remember, I want your case to end soon. I want you to get better and back to work. I'm not here to say, let's stretch this thing out and do all kinds of crazy treatment that's not needed. What I am saying is you need to be able to get everything that is needed. And you need to be able to get paid for the time that you're out of work when you have to be out of work, although I'd rather you go to work. And all of these things become problems for you with something as simple as a diagnosis. So don't allow your diagnosis to be weak or less severe than it actually is. Your approved condition matters a lot. So I'll take a break and answer questions.
All right. Victor Sanchez says, guys, I met Chris and Gini, Sarojini. Believe me, they will answer any and all of your questions. Chris likes to talk. Love you both.
Thanks, Victor.
Lindsay and John said, can a postmaster tell a patient that they can't go back to work if they file a CA2 until DOL accepts their case?
You use the word can. Can they do that? Yeah, my question is, will your union allow it? That's the answer. Will your union allow that to happen?
Mary said, if you go back to work with a broke hand because you don't want to lose pay, they look at you like, oh, you're working. You must not be that bad.
Yeah, that's, there's a stigma oftentimes and unfortunately attached to work injuries. And like, just the supervisor, I don't want anybody to get hurt, but if someone was going to have a broken hand, it should be the supervisor so they can, see what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
This sucks. I mean, if you're doing a job that requires your hand all day long and it's broken and you go back and do your job, somebody should pat you on the back and say, thank you. Someone else should say, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Go get that fixed. But nobody should give you a hard time. That's absolutely unacceptable.
Rodney McCoy says, how would you go about getting your annual and sick leave back that they used?
Yeah, well, you have to do leave buyback with a CA7, probably a 7A and a 7B. All forms, by the way, that get mentioned here can be found at federalinjurycenters.com. So you just go to that logo, Federal Injury Centers, and then put .com, and you'll find an OWCP Forms tab. So anything that I talk about, you can easily find right there. But that's how you do it. You have to do leave buyback. And by the way, they shouldn't use your sick and annual leave if you have COP, but they do it, and your union will have to grieve that, or you'll have to grieve it, depending on which union you're in. But they shouldn't be messing around with your pay. That's one thing. It's very, very, very serious. Don't mess around with people's pay. And there are federal laws that, govern that stuff. They're not allowed to mess with your pay like that.
Don Marco said, I just got approved for COP on reconsideration. How long before my leave is credited back to me?
That's a good question. Probably as long as you allow them to take. So I would stay on them, just like every single day I'd stay on them.
Cynthia O'Connell said, how can I get more information about a schedule award? So we have a few videos. If you go into the videos tab after this, there is a few videos and the title says schedule award. We also did live last week with Eric where he also discussed some schedule award issues, but we will have another schedule award because you guys had so many questions. I mean, we could go 3 hours on schedule award and still we won't answer the questions, but coming up soon, Chris will be doing a very detailed schedule award.
Well, and also, that's not the only places where you can find information on schedule awards. You can go to federalinjurycenters.com, and I've got schedule award tabs there that you can read about. And you can go to breakingowcp.com, and I write about schedule awards in all of my books. So there's a lot of information, a lot of content out there about schedule awards that you should be checking out.
Yeah, Dr. Cooper is on.
What's up, Dr. Cooper? He's in Forest Park, Georgia, and Phoenix City, Alabama, and he's here every week like clockwork. He's always here kind of answering the doctor stuff. So check him out. You can find him at Forest Park, Georgia, and Phoenix City, Alabama.
He said hospital ER diagnoses are not generally the right diagnosis for a long-term treatment. It is what is required treatment at that moment. Also, get a post-surgical diagnosis if done.
Yeah, and an interesting thing, just a backstory inside whatever it is. Last time we were at Dr. Cooper's office, he and I were having a conversation about schedule awards, in fact, and saying, people will come in and they want their impairment rating, but he'll look at their case and say, well, we got to expand the diagnoses first. You've got this weak diagnosis and this is going to work for you. You're not going to like the outcome of your schedule award. And so when you have somebody that's trained like he is, to do these things, he's going to look at your whole case. He's not just going to say, great, let me do this so I can bill for it. That's not what he's doing. He's looking at it going, how do I make this better for you? And so I told you, your diagnosis can affect your schedule award. And I got that idea from him because he was saying, the diagnosis can affect the schedule award.
Joseph Stillings said, I finally got my diagnosis expanded and had a surgery 2 months ago.
Great.
However, I keep getting harassed by the postmaster telling me that I have to keep giving them bi-weekly doctor notes. Why? I'm not returning to work.
Well, I know that feels like harassment. It sounds like it to me too. But there's a document called a CA20. Okay, it's attending physician report. And you can just ask your doctor every couple of weeks to fill that out for you. And it basically just gives them a status update. They don't have a right to anything other than a CA17 and a CA20. And so you can ask your doctor every couple of weeks to fill that out. The doctor shouldn't have a problem doing that for you because just as a matter of business, the doctors get to bill OWCP for that. So it's not like they're working for free, but it's not that hard of a form. They would do it for free if they needed to. It's not that, whatever. So get a CA20 from your doctor every couple of weeks and send it in.
Carlos Vera said, employee got bit by I hope you meant to say dog instead of doc. Takes 2 days.
If the doctor bit you, go find another doctor.
Got bit by a dog, takes 2 days off. Do they have to reimburse her for using her leave?
Do they have to reimburse her for using her leave? They don't have to reimburse her for using her leave, but when the case is accepted, then you can go back and do leave buyback and get your time back.
Yeah.
So at that point, when the case is accepted, yeah, they'll have to do that. But there's a form for that. It's a leave buyback form.
Eliza Bean said, if I get hurt on the job and it's due to the negligence of a contract driver, can I sue them or their company? Okay,
if it's due to the negligence of any third party, you are required to sue the third party. You're required to. It's not just like, can I do it? They're telling you to do it. In which case, don't hire a PI lawyer. That will end badly for you because the case will be over at some point, and then that's it. You don't have any benefits. You got to hire a federal lawyer. We always tell you that. Don't hire a PI lawyer. You got to hire a federal lawyer. And candidly, I recommend Eric Blowers. But if you want to look yourself, all you got to do is search OWCP injury lawyer, and you'll get a list on Google. Yeah. It'll be easy to find. And I want to go backwards on that last question too. Another way that you can get your time back for those first couple of days you use your own leave is if you're out for, I think it's 14 days, then they will automatically convert those first couple of days that you're out to continuation of pay, assuming you would like COP on your CA1.
Victor says, Florida APW is having a fall seminar. I'd love to see you there. I know Angela had already told us about this, and we are going to be there for sure.
Yeah, Victor, if they ask us to come, we'll be there.
Yeah, we never refuse anybody, especially in Florida.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Rodney McCoy said, I'm new to this.
Well, hey, welcome. Glad to have you.
Do you have any training in Texas I could attend? So if your union invites us, and I have a couple posts down from this video, and when it's done, that actually says what needs to happen and what we want if we're coming to train. Your union officials have to email me and invite us, and then we can come out and do a training session.
And the reason that's so important, and the reason we like to work within the unions where we're doing this is, well, two things. Number one, that's where I find groups of people that I can train versus, imagine flying to Texas and I train 2 people, I would train my heart out, but I'd be disappointed that, there weren't 20 or 30 or 100 more people. But the other reason I like to work in the unions like that is because there's so much of what we do that requires strong unions. There's a lot of things where I say, you got to go file a grievance on that, or go talk to your union about that, because your union is instrumental in a lot of cases in helping you through your OWCP situation. So I like working with the unions that want to work with us. And even the ones that don't want to work with us, I still feel the same about them, that they're strong, they're important. And if you can get their backing, it's very powerful.
Joy says, still having issues with getting an annual letter and more. I have 34 years experience dealing with this. Only problem is finding a doctor of record that is good. I need to talk to someone. Case manager hasn't helped. Joy, after the video, after the live, go ahead and message me and tell me where you're located. Also, so that you guys know, because we can't see it, but if you, above our video, once you get out, it has everything listed on there, where to find locations, the phone number, how to contact us, everything. So message me and I will help you.
Yeah. And just to add to that, that's the reason we started this franchise, is because we're hearing all over the place that we don't have any doctors, not enough doctors. Our doctors don't know what they're doing. Our doctors aren't trained. They're writing bad reports. They're diagnosing them improperly, right? And so we said, or I said, honestly, this is something I can fix. This is not an insurmountable problem. We can do something about it. And so now we've got, nearly 60 offices. And I always say, I don't know. It's so funny. Like, it's my company. I have no idea how many doctors are in it, but it's because we're always adding new doctors. They're always at various phases of training. But when they leave training, they get added to our locations tab. Like Dr. Jernigan just got added in Gulfport, Mississippi.
Yep.
So check that out. There's finally a doctor in Mississippi to help you. And pretty soon, because I just talked to Dr. Wood last week, we'll have Salt Lake City listed, Utah.
Yep.
So, they come on when they come on at various times or various points in time after the training's complete. But look, you already know you can go anywhere for an untrained doctor. That's easy. Just call anybody. So that's why we don't put doctors on our list until we know they are trained, so that when you show up, you have a good experience.
So the next question I'm going to read, and I'm going to address something. This goes both to the patients and all of our franchise doctors and case managers. If there's ever a complaint or a concern that anyone has, anybody watching, and you message us, we definitely let our offices know what's going on, especially if you haven't heard from them. So please be patient as we're growing more patients, more issues with your cases, and the doctors are working really hard on getting your claims accepted. And if you're not getting the response you want, you can contact Chris or I anytime to let us know. And their offices are not going to get offended because it's great feedback for them. And sometimes they just miss a call or a question. So always remember we're here to answer them and take care of them.
That's a good point. Look, just we left. What time did we leave 2 nights ago? The house to go to Melbourne. Okay, so that was Monday, right?
Yeah, so we came home Monday at 1 a.m.
Monday at 3 o'clock Eastern and 7 o'clock Eastern. I did a training. I'm not involved in the training anymore. We have a great training team for the doctors, but sometimes I do it myself because it's too important. And this issue has been one that's really been bothering me because I heard, look, I'm happy to tell on ourselves. When you have problems, you got to fix them, and be honest about it. So we had some offices whose reception staff, their front desk staff, was struggling with returning messages, answering phones, returning voicemails, returning messages. And so I did a front desk training, and I had nearly 60 people, which that was every single office. Okay, they were all there. And we did a really, really thorough training on how to stop that problem. So we should see a lot less of that now. And also, like, we're in Melbourne to work through problems. We're in Tallahassee to work through problems. So we acknowledge that these things happen. I hate we're human, but human error is part of the deal, and my job is to fix it. Yeah. So we love your feedback, and we're never upset by it. When you complain, we're like, man, what a great opportunity. We're really, really grateful to be able to hear it, because I'm one guy. Like, there's so many of you, and I'm this one guy training all of you. Well, we have all these doctors and they have all their staff, right? And they're still just one guy. So I appreciate the feedback. So keep it coming.
Yeah. So with that said, now I'm going to go into her question. Deborah, you said, I haven't received pay since COP ended November 11th. All of these dang reconsiderations is ridiculous. Federal Injury Center says everything is in there, but obviously it isn't because it's almost July and I'm still waiting.
Yeah. Well, the thing with reconsiderations is you can write a perfect letter and a claims examiner will still deny it. It's ridiculous. Remember, this is the first thing that comes to mind. And speaking of diagnoses, by the way, you can't have a diagnosis that is pain, like back pain,
right?
Neck. Those will generally get denied. Although just the other day I saw one where a claims examiner approved a neck pain diagnosis, which is definitely not in the rules. I'm positive they were supposed to deny that. And it wasn't our doctor, so we don't use those diagnoses. But my point is, I saw this one narrative that was fantastic. It was beautiful. It had more detail than you can imagine. It had like 5 or 6 good diagnoses and 1 pain diagnosis. And the claims examiner denied the whole claim, ignored the other 4 or 5 diagnoses, and said, pain is not an accepted condition. Denied the whole thing instead of saying, okay, I'm not going to do the pain thing, but we'll do the other ones that are valid. Instead, they just looked at it and went, denied. So you get some really, really crazy denials from time to time. And when these things happen, like I was just saying, I just sent a message before we started live here to my training staff to take a look at one of the offices and just review some random narratives to make sure there's no holes in them, right? So we're always looking at this. And if we find that, we'll fix it. But if you want me to look at your stuff, you can send it to chris@federalinjurycenters.com. And I'm happy to do that. It may take me a few days to get to it because, I'm either in an airplane or driving across country,
or on Zoom.
But I will do it. I'll look at anything you want me to look at. And Dr. Suma's here. What's up, Dr. Suma? He's in Land Lakes, Florida. He's one of those guys that gets his cases, his narratives complete in under 3 days. And that includes sending them out for imaging, because him and his team have done the work to get imaging centers on board to work that, so they'll take their patients same day or next day and not charge money out of their pocket. So they have the same setup with surgeons as well, so that you don't have the hassles that a lot of people have in other places around the country.
Tammy Newman.
So
Hey, Tammy. She said, supervisor told me I had to use 4 hours of sick leave to go get therapy at Dr. Suma's. They can't figure out how to get me paid and to my therapy appointments.
Well,
oh boy.
Tammy, now that Dr. Suma got your case accepted, you can fill out a CA7 and 7A for every time that you're leaving work. A 7A is for intermittent time. So if you have 4 hours on the clock and a couple hours off the clock, that's a perfect situation for a CA7A. And you can look at our website, Tammy, and this is for everyone else. Tammy probably knows this. But we have some how-to videos on our website, and one of them is how to fill out a CA7 and a 7A. So you can check that out if you need help.
Tammy Wilkes said, been dealing with DOL since 2016. It's seriously mentally challenging. If you're having any issues, please message me after, and we're going to try to help you.
Yeah.
Phyllis Nathan said, what forms do I use being out again with my neck now back, CA7 or CA2A?
Okay, if you're talking about getting paid for your time out of work, it's a CA7. A CA2A is a recurrence form. It's saying like you had an accepted condition in the past that resolved or it got as good as it was going to get, and it's back. So it depends on what your purpose is.
Phyllis says, do I automatically get COP?
Nobody automatically gets COP, but when you fill out a CA1 form, so you have an injury that happened in a single shift, and you fill that CA1 out and you report the injury within 30 days of the injury happening, then you're eligible at that point for 45 days of continuation of pay. But you have to select letter A in box 15 on the front page of the CA1.
Joseph Stilling said, I was taken off of work and put on monthly payment rollbacks in September of 2020. I haven't returned to work yet.
Yeah, so when you're on the rolls like that, you don't have to turn in your 7s and your documentation anymore. The claims examiner says, look, we know you're out, and they just pay you automatically. I think it's a periodic roll.
Shaquille Shaw says, how early and how to apply for FMLA?
Well, you can get FMLA anytime that you need to be out of work to help, for yourself or to help a loved one who's injured or sick. And it doesn't have to just be workers' comp. It can be any illness, anything health-wise that you need to be out. And so you can download FMLA forms online and take it to your doctor and have your doctor sign it or fill it out and sign it, and then you turn that into your employer.
Jennifer Sparks says, do you know if I'm on limited duty for 4 hours a day? I had a non-injury related surgery last week and will be off for about 8 weeks. Do I still turn in my CA7 and CA7A for my 4 hour a day through OWCP?
Okay, so you had a work injury that allowed you to work half a day, but then you had a non-work injury related surgery that's going to take you, I'm assuming, out of work for some period of time. I think you're going to have a problem. You turn that in. Let's see. You can turn it in. Okay, there's no reason you can't turn it in, but you may be denied. Okay, let's just be prepared. You might be denied, but you can still try to get paid for your 4 hours. I think they should pay you. So yeah, you can try. You're not breaking any rules by turning in your CA7s.
Joseph Stilling said, any recommendations on how to get a hold of my case manager? I keep calling and they do not return my calls.
Okay, so we just heard this from Eric Blowers last week. When you're continuously trying to contact your claims examiner, they never return a call. Eric suggested you write a letter to the claims examiner supervisor and say, I called this date, this date, this date, and this date, and left messages, and I haven't gotten a call back. I need a call back, and then e-comp it. So send that by e-comp. Eric says that gets a response at a high rate.
Nathaniel Tucker, what would I have to do if an employee was injured on the job with an approved OWCP case? The employee was not paid COP for 2 weeks of the time missed. This occurred 10 months ago. What can be done to get this employee paid?
You got to file a grievance, but it happened 10 months ago. Typically, your grievances are, you have 2 to 4 weeks to file a grievance. So at this point, you may be SOL and have to file a CA7 for the time off. That may be the way to go.
Maria Portal said, we spend more time in the waiting room than with the doctors.
Yeah.
June,
I don't know what to say about that. That was always been a pet peeve of mine.
June Gerber, how long does work comp pay last after COP ends? Oops.
I don't understand. How long does the work comp pay last? Oh, after COP ends. Well, once your claim's accepted, you can be paid like regular. You just turn your CA7s in every 2 weeks, so you have to be out of work. And so they'll start paying you on a regular basis. But remember, if your diagnosis is a poor diagnosis, it's not going to last for very long. So just keep that in mind.
Tammy said, do I take half a day? My case is accepted. I'm a roll carrier. My route is very long. Do I come in and case my route, then go to my appointment and then have someone run it?
Well, what happens when you're gone is a supervisor's problem, Tammy, not yours. The rules allow for you to be out of work and at the doctor's office up to 4 hours of your work shift. Not, it doesn't mean you have to take the whole 4, but they say up to 4, and I'm sure it's just taking into account drive time. But somebody else will have to do the work for you when you're gone. That's the supervisor's job. And that's why we give them advance notice that you're going to be out of work.
June Gerber, you said I need an attorney to help me with my federal case. If you message me after, tell me what's going on, because you may not need an attorney, because Eric, I shouldn't say any of the attorneys, Eric will tell you that you probably don't need an attorney, you need to hire him. You just need to find a federal injury centers or a doctor that does federal work comp to get you through.
Yeah, but that's the great thing about Eric is, like he always says, I don't need more clients. I help who needs my help. And so if you don't need to hire him, he'll be the first one to tell you, which is really cool. How are we doing there?
I'm just scrolling. Jennifer Nasworthy, I'm seen by Dr. Rubin in Florida, best team. Love them, but I'd love to chat with you and get your take on a horror story I'm going through.
Yeah, we'd be happy to talk to you about that. Just send us a message with the phone number we can call you at.
Yeah, Jennifer, we know you're a federal employee. Tammy Wilkes says, I was accepted for COVID diagnosis, but now they're saying long haul is a different diagnosis.
I'm sorry. I had to get water, folks. Long haul is not a diagnosis. I'm not sure what that means.
Long haul COVID.
Yeah, I'm just not familiar with. COVID's kind of new. Is that saying like driving a truck? Look, here's the rules. Supervisors I'm going to keep that to myself. Here's the rules. If you, in the course of duty, had contact with customers, coworkers, or members of the public in general as a result of work, and you got COVID, it's going to be covered. That's what the rules say. All the FECA bulletins say that. So if, regardless of what your job is as a federal employee, you came in contact with human beings during the course of work and you contracted COVID, your case should be covered. I think that's the easiest way to put it.
Victor said, for postal workers to apply for FMLA, you need to work at least 1,250 fiscal hours to apply.
So if you're brand new, they're not going to let you have it.
Samara Marie says, I'm a union steward for the mail handlers. We have a problem with supervision putting people in for COP, even though they are not controverting it on the claim. Isn't this against the law? Who do we contact? DOL?
You can call your claims examiner for sure. If they don't answer, remember to write that letter that I told you in eCompet. And I know I heard you say you're a union steward. Normally I would say go talk to your union, but that's you. So I would start with the claims examiner, yeah.
And Maria Portal said, I didn't finish. Federal injury doctors actually spend time with you.
No, but that is a big pet peeve of mine. Maria, when I used to work in Texas at this doctor's office, I could not convince my boss, who was an MD, I could not convince him to downsize or hire more people. And so we would have people waiting in our reception room like 2 hours. I was like, that's insane. Ridiculous. It was maddening to me to have people wait. Those of you that know me probably are not surprised by that. I can't stand it.
When I was at a doctor's office, he had a 7-minute rule. If a person's sitting there more than 7 minutes, they have to get taken back. That was his thing. And that's why he was so successful. Brenda Smith says, when you have 30 days to answer a refusal for surgery, is it from the date of the letter or the date you receive it in the mail?
It'll be it's generally on almost everything. It's 30 days from the date of the letter.
Gloria said, I traveled to see Dr. Cooper. Dr. Cooper sees me on 2 cases, same day, submitted 8 hours for appointment.
Yeah. And that's how we train them, is that if someone has multiple cases, you have to treat them like multiple people. You can't treat multiple cases at the same time. That causes billing problems. And at Federal Injury Centers, we're very much against billing problems.
Okay, everybody's talking about long haul COVID means long lasting COVID systems. We have a guy who has no stamina but tests negative.
Well, so these are CA1 claims, and all the effects of COVID are covered. So, you have lifetime medical benefits every time you get a claim accepted. So if you have more, problems related to COVID, those are all covered conditions. It's almost like, no, it's exactly like if you had a bad shoulder and you still can't work because of your shoulder. It's the same thing. You still can't work because of COVID. That's how it goes. And FICA did a really good thing by making it really, really easy to get a COVID claim accepted and making it a CA1 claim. So all the CA1 rules apply.
June said, how long does USPS have to review a CA7 and submit to DOL?
Well, the rule is they have 5 days. 5 days? I haven't taught this one in a long time. When you turn a CA7 in, it's 5 days. The supervisor has 5 days to submit that to OWCP. They can't just sit on it because they're sitting on money, and you have a right to get paid on time.
Mary said, if they did something in your case, do they log it in your eComp account, or do you have to upload additional documents needed?
Everything that happens is in your eComp account. Everything.
Donna said, how do I ask for a second opinion? I wrote a letter and uploaded it on eComp, also asked the doctor.
So, Donna, are you saying that you personally want to go to another doctor to get a second opinion? The way you do that is call the other doctor, make the appointment, and go. You're not restricted from going to see the doctor.
Tammy said, I was accepted for COVID and they gave me $1,500 in medical care. I have an ongoing COVID issue and they won't pay me my scripts or medical care. They are saying they need more medical evidence. How can I give them that when they won't allow me to see the doctors I need to get help?
Well, you go see whatever doctor you think you need to go see and have that doctor write a beautiful report explaining the medical necessity of what it is you're needing. They can't prevent you from going to the doctor. You can go to whatever doctor you need to go to get this done.
Yeah. Okay. You want to continue?
No, that was all of them. So those were the 8 points. We started this thing out with the importance of a proper diagnosis. Okay. If you have a low level diagnosis, but a severe injury, then bad things are going to happen to you. Your treatment's going to get cut off. You're not going to be able to have surgery if you need it. You're going to get sent back to work early. If you can't work, you won't get paid. Your schedule award will be insufficient. Just so many things happen to you because the diagnosis is not properly done. Your doctor has got to take the time, get the imaging, do the diagnostics, do whatever it takes to make sure that your approved conditions are the highest level valid diagnoses, meaning the most severe diagnoses that are valid to your case. I'm not suggesting that you add diagnoses just so you can get paid or add a diagnosis just so you can get more treatment. Nothing like that. I'm just saying whatever it is, and don't allow your case to be undercut by not having proper diagnoses in it. That's it. So all diagnoses need to be valid and the highest level or most severe valid diagnosis that exists as a result of your work injury. And then I also kind of touched on this a little bit, but it also can't be diagnoses like pain. In healthcare, there's a diagnosis that's called lumbago. There's another one called cervicalgia. Well, these are basically pain, it's neck pain, back pain, and they're not supposed to accept those diagnoses. More times than not, I see the claims be denied, but our doctors don't write like that. We don't add pain diagnosis. Instead, we say, what's causing the pain? That's the diagnosis. Oh, you have back pain? What's causing the back pain? Well, it's a herniated disc. Okay, diagnosis, right? So you can't have pain diagnoses because generally speaking, the symptoms like that will be denied. They'll say that's not a valid diagnosis. But every other valid diagnosis needs to be that is the highest level, most severe diagnosis that actually exists as a result of your work injury.
Donna says, how do I file for temporary disability?
Well, your doctor will have to write a narrative report explaining why you're temporarily disabled from your job. And if it's as a result of a work injury, you're just going to turn that in with your CA7s and get paid for your time off because it's temporary. The idea is that you're going to get better and not stay on disability. Of course, if it lasts longer, then you may end up with the Office of Personnel Management where you're on permanent federal disability. But I hope that it doesn't go there.
Mary said, do you upload your own documents or do they into your account?
Well, it depends. Whoever clicks the button is who's uploading it. Like at our doctor's offices, our doctors upload your narrative reports to your eComp account. All we have to know is your case number, your date of birth, and your last name. And anybody at that point can access your eComp account and upload something to it. So our doctors use that information. We upload your reports. You can upload things, and your supervisors can as well. But they've got to send, like I said, the CA7s and your documentation within just a few days of you turning it in.
June said, I have a diagnosis. It's now accepted, and the case nurse manager keeps saying she thinks it's pre-existing issue because of arthritis showed in an image. Can you hold that? I need to check something.
So the deal with pre-existing conditions is those are covered too. So it doesn't really matter. So what, it's pre-existing. If the job exacerbates it, worsens it in any way, then it's covered. It doesn't matter that it's pre-existing. The nurse case manager needs to go back to school and the rules of nurse case managing.
Keep reading.
Oh, right? There's more?
Yeah. Keep reading. I'm looking on LinkedIn and YouTube what questions they have.
Okay. Let's see. What do you do when you need testing to support a diagnosis expansion and DOL will not approve the testing? Okay. If DOL won't approve testing that's needed, it's like that thing I say about sitting at a red light, right? You're not just going to stay there. So run the red light. Go get your testing anyways, even if you have to pay for it with your own health insurance. Because as soon as the condition is approved, you'll be able to go back and get your money back. George said, when you file intermittent CA7s for treatment and 6 months later you file a CA7 for a long-term disability surgery, where do they get the pay rate from? When you file your first CA7 for intermittent leave or when you file a CA7 for long-term? So George, your pay rate is whatever pay rate you're at when you got injured, unless you've been back to work full duty for, I believe, 60 days, and then it becomes a new pay rate.
Okay, we have a question from YouTube from Brad Henderson. Can you file and or collect a schedule award at the 1 year, 1 day mark while still receiving compensation from OWCP?
Okay, so the 1 year, 1 day marks are relevant on a schedule award. You have a lifetime to file for a schedule award. Just be alive and you can file for a schedule award, but at no time can you collect schedule award payments and OWCP payments at the same time. Okay, one or the other.
Melissa Peterson said, thank you for sharing this information. Melissa from the Federal Injury Centers of Roscoe is on for tonight.
All right there at the border of Illinois and Michigan, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
Is it Michigan or wait?
No, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, so that's a new office that just came online, and it's like within an hour range of Madison, Wisconsin, too. So tell your friends.
Yeah. There's a few people on YouTube tonight. Send your questions. Where are you at?
Amy J asked if I'm doing any specials on my books. I gave all mine out to coworkers who needed it. That was really nice of you, Amy. Send me a message and let me know what you need, and I'll help you out.
Melissa said Wisconsin. They're an hour from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
No, she was just
yeah.
Thank you, Melissa.
This one says, if the doctor says it's my medical opinion, you will not be able to ever do your job in the same capacity. Rural carrier in Western New York. Next step. Okay, if your doctor says you will never be able to be a rural carrier again, first of all, that's incredibly sad for me. You can file for federal disability through the Office of Personnel Management, and what happens there is, okay, you can't do that job anymore. It doesn't mean you can't do any job anymore, and so you would get, you'd be eligible for 60% of your pay the first year and 40% thereafter until retirement. But you can also get a non-federal job at the same time and make up to 80% of your previous income. And so by the second year, you technically could be making 120% of your previous income because of disability. I hate that. I don't want it to be something you have to do, but you asked the question and that's the answer. June said, the nurse case manager applied for an extension to remain on my case, and I don't know if I want her to remain. Can I ask for a new one? Yes, June, you can. You have to write a letter to your claims examiner just asking for this one to be removed. It doesn't mean you won't get another one, but you have the right to do that. Be nice about it because you want the next nurse case manager to be nice to you, but yes, you can do that.
Hello to everybody on LinkedIn and hello to those of you on YouTube.
Cynthia said, thank you so much for this helpful information, and you're welcome. And she said, I'm new here. Welcome.
Welcome.
We're glad you're here. and I'll check out your website before I bomb you with questions. Cynthia, bombs away. It's no problem, okay?
Let's see. Miguel said, I've been seeing my MD doctor every 6 months since 2007 for a surgery he performed on my elbow area for a work injury. If I decide to close my case for a lack of complete improvement from surgery, do you recommend I talk to a federal injury center, or how do I go about doing it?
So I never recommend that you change doctors from the one that you're at. When you're happy with your doctor, I recommend you stick it out and just communicate with your doctor. You always have the right to go get a second opinion. You can talk to anybody else if you want to, but I will be the last person to tell you to switch doctors. It's kind of against my own personal policy. I like you to like your doctors and stick to the ones that are doing a good job. If you think your doctor's not doing a good job and you could be getting better if you were somewhere else, then that's a personal decision you got to make, and I respect that too.
Brenda Smith said, what happens when the doctor says he cannot say in the narrative that osteoarthritis was caused from work?
Find a doctor that can, unfortunately, not all doctors are trained in musculoskeletal conditions. And many doctors are hesitant, or should I say scared, cowards.
No,
when it comes to
angry, kind of.
Some doctors just won't do it.
Yeah.
They don't want to get involved with a work comp case. But, I tell my doctors, and again, I'm not one of them, all right, but I've been around for a long time doing this, and I've got 2 really bad knees with tons of osteoarthritis. And I imagine that if I were, like, say, a letter carrier whose job description and writing says you walk 8 to 10 miles a day, and you all tell me you walk more than that on a lot of days, and then you're carrying up to 70-pound packages and carrying 35-pound satchels, or a second 35-pound satchel you're not supposed to have, but you're doing it anyways, and you keep that job for 20 plus years, osteoarthritis is probably likely. And so if you have a doctor who can't see that you walk 10 miles a day carrying a bunch of weight, and you've done that for the last 10 to 20 years, and that might cause osteoarthritis, you might be at the wrong doctor.
Doug Wood said, I don't know if this has been covered. I'm just tuning in. How long does it take for DFEC to approve payment once they receive your CA7?
So I saw a letter from a claim examiner once to an injured person who told them to get their CA7s and documentation turned in every 2 weeks so they can be paid regularly. So it is my understanding that you should be paid in the next pay cycle.
Samara Marie said, for the carrier that said doctor said she can no longer be a carrier, you can also switch crafts.
Right, yeah, you definitely can switch crafts. Like maybe you can go be a clerk or something else. But I kind of took it as, if you can't do that, what would you do? And maybe federal disability and get a non-federal job to go with it.
Crystal Morris said, my case was denied. I had to do reconsideration because I finally got a diagnosis last month. So now Precision Spine, my case was denied. I had to do, she does it twice. Reconsider because I finally got a diagnosis. So now Precision Spine is trying to help me get approved. Good. Maria says, how would you go about looking for a primary doctor?
Like just finding a doctor? Is that the question?
How would you go about finding a primary doctor?
Okay, so Maria, if you're looking for a doctor for a work injury, I was just teaching this in Tucson last week. You can go to Google and you can search OWCP work injury doctor in your city and state. So OWCP work injury doctor, city and state. Unfortunately, if you're in the middle of the country, most of the time you're not going to find anybody, like Iowa, Idaho, South Dakota, North Dakota, right? You're not finding doctors because there's none in your state.
We're working on it.
We're working hard on it. And so you can Google it. If you really want a Federal Injury Center's office, that one's easy. You just go to federalinjurycenters.com, go to the locations tab, and you can just scroll the states that are alphabetical and then check the offices beneath it and see if there's something that makes sense. If something there makes sense for you, their phone number and their address is listed there. You can call them directly.
Donna said, I ruptured my Achilles tendon while on the job. My doctor acts like he does not want to do surgery, says that there are too many complications, that does not defer me from having it. That's why I was looking for a second opinion. Yeah,
so, I'm not qualified to, agree or disagree with your doctor as far as that goes. But I know what a ruptured Achilles tendon is. And that sounds awful and painful. And I actually worked for a doctor who ruptured his playing basketball one day, and he didn't have surgery. He wore a boot and it healed. So I know it's crazy. I couldn't believe it. But
Wow.
anyways, I'm not qualified to answer that. But yeah, you can definitely get a second opinion on that.
Trina Perkins said, I have a lot of physical restrictions and I have been diagnosed with a mental disability. They have me looking for jobs. I feel I'm being pushed out. I have an attorney. Their doctors gave me these restrictions, but they're not honoring them. I'm a former rural carrier from Texas.
Yeah, your union is going to have to step up and help you out with that. That's just, and maybe you need to contact EEO and see if they're, if you have a EEO complaint that you might be able to file. I don't know, but I like saying start with the union and see if you can get help from a union rep.
Dr. Cooper's.
Yeah, Dr. Cooper said, ask that doctor to write you a note explaining how walking a route, carrying packages every day does cause osteoarthritis. Yeah, it does. So, and actually, Dr. Cooper, that's who I was thinking of him when that came up, because he treats osteoarthritis. He's one of several of our doctors that have a great knee program where they're able to get those OA knees treated really good.
If you can see down here, I have like both phones. I need like 4 phones because I have to see all of it. I'm trying to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, we got to find a way to see the messages in 4 different social media platforms at one time. That's tough. So if we're missing your question, we're sorry. We'll get to it as soon as possible though.
Karen Combs said, I'm a rural carrier with an open case. I have been doing physical therapy. I have not filled out a CA7. Do I need to?
If you want to get paid for your time off, absolutely yes. Fill out a 7. And follow the instructions really good. Attach documentation to it to prove why you're out, that you're out for, a right reason for LWOP. But yeah, for sure. I want you to get paid.
Samantha Mohar said, my federal injury center doctor is 4 hours away. How do I file for mileage? What form is it? Can they deny my time off of an 8-hour round trip to go to my appointment?
Okay. So it's an OWCP 957. They're probably not going to approve anything over 100 miles round trip. You need to contact your claims examiner and explain the situation and ask if they will make an exception and pay for your travel. Up to 4 hours of your time off of your work shift, unless your doctor, and I'm not saying that this needs to happen, but I'm saying unless your doctor takes you off of work completely and says you're completely disabled from the job. The thing is, if you're not actually completely disabled from the job, your doctor shouldn't say so.
Yeah.
So it kind of puts you in a bind.
Maria, you said you're not looking for a federal injury doctor. You guys already provided me with that. They're great. Was looking for a primary care doctor that would not be afraid to take on a federal employee. So I know when I used to work for a doctor, he saw federal employees. I remember all the mailmen that used to come in there. As long as you're not going in for your issue,
your work injury issue.
Yeah, you're working on the job issue, then you should be able to go to any primary care doctor.
Yeah, so the deciding factor there is your doctor, do they accept your insurance?
Yeah.
Because you all have great federal insurance benefits. Believe me, I've been in healthcare my entire life. There's a lot of really bad health insurance plans that make to where it's like not having insurance, you're paying cash almost for everything.
Yeah.
But you guys have really good insurance. So most doctors love your insurance, but if they're not on your insurance, then they won't be able to see you.
Yeah. So let me go over some things with you guys as we come to an end. I hope this topic was a really good topic. And if at any time you guys have a certain topic that you and your friends are talking about and you want us to get it out to everybody else, please message us. We'll love to hear whatever topics. And that goes for all of our doctors and our franchises as well. Choose a topic and we'll go over it. So again, once you finish the video, you can see all of our information, but if you're looking for a federal injury centers, you can see right here at the top corner, just go to federalinjurycenters.com, click locations. You can find our locations. You can find schedule award doctors. There's video tabs on there, how to fill out a CA1, a CA2, and a CA7.
Yep.
So you can go there and Tom goes through each line step by step. It's very detailed. There's no way you can not understand it after watching the video. If you want to buy books, you go to breakingowcp.com.
Get the download. That's on purpose. Soon I'm only going to have download books.
Yeah.
Because I want you downloading it to your phone so you have instant access to it when you're at work. I need to read this. Yeah. So Karen said that her managers all of them have never done work comp, and she's asked for a CA7. She hasn't seen one. Can they just pay me regular? Okay, so you don't need to ask them for a CA7, Karen. Go to federalinjurycenters.com and print them out and fill them out on the first page. Your supervisor has to fill out the second page. But keep in mind, your claim has to be accepted for you to be able to turn a CA7 in and get paid. And you got to have a diagnosis that would indicate you need to be out of work for some reason. So that's what you do. You get your own CA7s. Don't wait on management ever. Just go get your own forms, fill them out, and then take them to management. They fill out the second page. If they've never done it before, you can reassure them that all of the words on that second page are written in English and that they can read them and figure out what goes in the blanks.
Yeah.
They may be dumb, but they're not allowed to play dumb.
Michelle said, I'm waiting on an approval for an MRI from Comp. Can I just use my own insurance to cover my MRI?
Yeah, you can. It's not what we prefer. We only work with imaging centers who won't take your insurance and instead will wait till the claim get accepted and then bill OWCP. But yes, you can do it.
I know a lot of you are wondering, because we live in Florida, is it because we live in Florida we have so many, referrals for orthos, MRI companies? Well, Chris and I, both of our background has been in medical. I've been in Florida for the last 20 something years, worked at a hospital, had a primary care. I mean, I had a book that I gave to a friend that has 3,000 doctors in it. And networking is what we both did in our previous jobs. So we understand the value it brought by us doing this. And all of our doctors are trying to get MRI facilities to work with them, are trying to get specialists. And also, I know a lot of you have been calling me or messaging me and asking, how do I get find a psychiatrist? How do I find an orthopedic surgeon? If you call any of our doctors in any of our centers, if you choose, you'll hear them tell you to come in, because sometimes you're told just to go straight to see a specialist, and the specialist won't get your narrative approved most of the time. So just give them a call. They'll get you in and they'll refer you out to an orthopedic specialist. That way you're not hunting down surgeons or any type of doctor you're looking for to go through that drama and hassle.
Hey, the other thing is about, are we set up like this in Florida because we live here? Truthfully, the reason we have this network around, in the Tampa Bay area, it's not about me or her at all. It's about Dr. Lee and Dr. K and Dr. Suma and Dr. Chris and Dr. Fred over there. Those doctors have made an effort, a strong effort, a big push to build a network of specialists and imaging centers that'll work with you. And that happened because I said, look, guys, these people, these federal employees, these injured patients are going through all kinds of hell when they get hurt. And, you want to send them out to places so they can get better, but wherever you're sending them to, the doctors don't want to help. And so Dr. Lee said, well, we'll just see about that. And he fixed it. And so now he's got this network of, surgeons and pain management specialists and imaging centers that if him or his staff sends you to the specialist of the imaging center, there's no hassles, no questions asked. And so it's all about who the doctor is. And in this case, it's Dr. Lee and Kay and Suma and the rest of the bunch that have just said, hey, we're going to fix every problem. They've done a really great job with it.
Here's a message from LinkedIn from Tanya G. How long does it take to receive payment from OWCP? And should therapy be completed before returning to any light duty?
You should get paid regularly if your claim's accepted and you're turning in CA7s for LWOP. So it should just be like you get paid regularly, right? And should therapy be completed before returning to any light duty? That's a doctor question. I just cannot answer that question for you. Your doctor has got to make that decision for you.
And Tanya, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Victor, thank you. Victor said happy birthday to one of your sons. He is turning 21 today. He's in Texas.
Aaron turned 21 today.
Aaron has turned 21, and thank you guys for all the sweet comments. He doesn't have Facebook, so I'm going to screenshot all the messages you guys sent over to him.
And feel free and tell him that, hey, why don't you have Facebook?
Mary said, you guys are awesome. Thanks for all you're doing. We need this each day. God bless you both. Also to Forest Park doctors and their staff. Aw. Dr. Suma is trying our absolute best for you all.
Yes, you are.
Miss Rosa said, my job is still not providing a sedentary job per restrictions, and OWCP still has not made USPS accountable. I'm going on a year out of work, no pay.
Yeah, your union's got to step up. I don't know what they can do or what has been done. And, maybe you need to consider, do you have to file an EEO complaint? Are they treating you fair, or are they mistreating you because you're injured? That's not acceptable.
Victor, he said, any update on the Orlando offices? I saw both of you were at the Gaylord Palms Hotel. You were on a cruise, by the way.
Yeah.
So we would have want to be there.
And you know what? We were at the Gaylord, and it was at a doctor's event, so we were recruiting doctors. It was the worst doctors recruiting event in the history of doctors conventions. This was the most terribly set up doctors convention in the history of doctors conventions. It was a total waste of time. There's no chance that we got any doctors to join the franchise from that place. But the next week we were in Las Vegas.
We got 26
or 28. A consultant was holding a seminar for his members, his doctor members, and we had 26 responses. So we made up for it. And to answer the first question, the Orlando doctor and all the training is coming along great.
Yeah.
In fact, he was a active participant in the training that I just did this week. And so it looks like they're all in, and we should be good to go pretty soon.
I'm pushing him for August, so hold tight just a little bit more. Training should be pretty much good to go.
Just remember, I don't allow anybody to start helping you until they're all the way trained.
Yeah,
and checked off by my staff.
Yeah, because we're going to make our way down to Orlando again and finalize everything. He said, thanks for the invite twice already, Mangoes and Gaylord.
Buddy, I'm coming on the next cruise with you. Then we'll talk about it overlooking the ocean.
All right. Jennifer said, my EEO has been active and ongoing for 3 years and counting.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, that's going to be it. The last few weeks, we ran almost like 2 hours, but I got to be honest with you. Today, I'm running on fumes. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you for being here. Watch us again next week. Will I be on next week? Will you be on next week?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. So we'll be on next week, 8:00 Eastern time. You'll be able to watch us on all 4 of these platforms. Thanks to Gini for finding this really cool program where we can blast it all out to 4 places at once. So this is pretty neat.
Yeah.
And hopefully the quality of our videos are going to get better as a result of this as well. We're going to be taking the month of July off from travel. And so during that time, I'm going to spend some time working on improving Wednesday night chats as best we can. And also during that month, I'm going to be spending a lot more time training the offices so we can accelerate the training and get more offices online. So I'm going to jump in and, roll my sleeves up and do the work with Jennifer and Emmy and Tom and get the training done for the next month.
Yeah, we might be bringing on a doctor next week just for a little chit chat session, just for a quick 15 minutes to introduce himself and where they're located. We'll be doing that often.
Yeah, and during the month of July, I'm going to bring a guest on each week and let you meet, some of the doctors. And I plan on bringing on a few of my union friends to talk about things from a union perspective. I think that's going to be really enlightening.
Yes.
You need all the information you can get. And we have the ability to bring you everything you need from all the different angles. So we're going to definitely make that happen. And it's going to be fun. We had Eric on last week, and for me, that was fun. It's a gift to have him on because he's so smart and you like him better than you like me. So I resent that a little bit. But we'll bring on, Dr. Cooper's always here. I plan on having Dr. Cooper on in July. Our orthopedic surgeon in Boston, we're going to have him on and let you ask him orthopedic doctor questions.
Yeah.
We'll bring on Dr. Suman, Dr. K. So I have a plan to bring some folks on. Hopefully, my good friend, Rich Ray, will bless us with his presence and come on one night and talk to you about union issues. So those are a lot of things that we want to do. I'm going to bring, nobody has heard from Ron Speakman in a very long time, but I have. So I'll try to bring Ron on and let you hear things from his perspective. He's got a really interesting story.
Yeah, we're going to do some neat things as this last quarter is coming into play after summer. So look out for all those things. Again, if you are looking for doctors, please go to federalinjurycenters.com, click locations. You can find a schedule of ward doctors on there, how to fill out your forms. And there's all of our forms on there that not a lot of people have them on their in their office or their websites. And the books, go to breakingowcp.com to buy the books. If you have anything you need to email, please email us at info@federalinterestrcenters.com. Again, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for being on it. We had a little bit of people from all 4 platforms.
All right, that's it. This lady, Jill, said that we're like Italians. We say goodbye 5 times. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's an ender. So we're going to say goodbye for the last time. Everyone have a good night.
Have a good night. You have to click. Bye.